So when we hung out the next day together, I had to either go in that other individual's vehicle or go in his vehicle. And because I had already known this guy did not really pay attention to me, and the other guy was, and the other individual was paying too much attention to me, hint, hint, I go with safe.
Yeah.
Safe, right?
Safe guy here.
Yeah.
Safe guy.
You felt
here.
respected, yes.
Yeah. And
Friend zone immediately.
yes. Well, I had a boyfriend. I knew he had girlfriends, right?
Right.
So we were, and to be honest, we just hung out. We just started talking and we just started hanging out.
Welcome to Couples Unfiltered. I'm Lionel, a retired Marine drill instructor and master sergeant, and a widower learning to navigate life after loss.
And I'm Natalie, a retired nurse, also widowed, and now together we're navigating grief, healing, midlife changes, family dynamics, and everything in between.
Join us as we have real, unfiltered conversations about love, loss, and relationships.
We'll share stories, talk to others about their journeys, and drop a few cheat codes for making relationships work.
Listen, it's raw, it's real, and it's unfiltered.
Let's get started.
Welcome back. We are out of the studio, as you can tell. We have the distinct pleasure of being at Fox Point Farms in Encinitas, California. And we are in an incredible space, getting ready to dive into a great conversation with two fantastic individuals.
With us today is culinary director Alex Carballo and his wife Melissa. Alex is also known for his contributions and success with many other restaurants in this area, North County, San Diego, Valentino, Moto Deli, Hamburger Hut, Corner Pizza, and the list goes on and on. But everyone knows Alex as the hospitality professional with the mostest.
Yeah. Now let's tell you a bit more about Fox Point. So Fox Point Farms is where you can experience farm-to-table dining, a guest house, organic brewery, wellness offerings, and an actual regenerative farm. This is a great place to be.
Yeah. We first met Alex, because this is our first time meeting Melissa, even though we've spoke on the phone, when we were at an event with San Diego Magazine's.
The Del Mar Wine and Food Festival.
Right. And there was an after party here at Fox Point.
Yep.
And Alex was so welcoming. And
well, hold on, because you were at the live station getting IVs before we got started.
Yes, so with the Food and Wine Festival, you go there and you drink wine, a lot of wine, everything's accessible, you pay for your tickets and then everything's open, right? And I was like, you know what? I think I need to hydrate, pre-hydrate. So they had this station where you could go and get IVs. Yeah. I went straight there. I was like, let me just do it now because, there might be a line. I just want to chill. And of course, it took me like forever to get mine through because I was already hydrated. So
of course he was.
Everything moves real slow when you're already hydrated. But he left me.
me and Juan were standing next to you guys watching you get the IV, and we saw this amazing stand. And Juan was like, come over here, I need you to meet somebody. And we met Alex.
Yeah.
And it went from there. You were so gracious to invite us back to Fox Point so we can hang out for the after party. So it's just great.
And then we've been here several times since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys.
No,
it's a pleasure.
We appreciate you guys being here.
You guys must have met actually at the Del Mar Fest because she was here that evening.
Yeah.
So.
I think we may have just met in passing like everybody else does, right?
Yeah.
She
We came back to the carriage house with, was that that?
No, it wasn't that night. It was another night.
Yeah.
She was with Primo with Juan.
Oh, that one. Okay, yeah. Oh, Primo's my
So you guys might have met that evening actually.
We may have, yeah.
But
we were also coming from a wine festival.
That's what I was to say, but let's not try to remember everything.
That's why I said you might have met. Doesn't mean you remember.
There was
tequila, yeah.
So let's be honest, okay?
We were trying everything, so we had to make sure everything was good.
Yeah, we were getting our money's worth out of that
absolutely.
ticket.
Well, let's dive in. Melissa, we want to start with you. Please tell us a brief synopsis of how you grew up and what got you to this point.
Well, I'm one of what people tend to say is rare. I am a born and raised San Diegan, so I'm a local yokel, still here, crazy enough. And I grew up in the central San Diego area, everything from elementary to high school, and just kind of lived a little bit of every part. Now we're in the Spring Valley area. I'm an HR director and HR manager, just depending on who is hiring, because titles are funny like that. And you know, basically I've been here all my life, just been doing everything and just supporting this guy, and just been enjoying the wonderful world of San Diego. I don't know how more I can say is, because it's not as interesting as him.
Any siblings, and tell us something about like mom and dad.
Oh, well, siblings, I have one sister, mom and dad, who are still also married today. Also, dad's originally from Long Island, New York, but got here probably in his teens, early adolescence. Mom came here when she was 17 from Mexico City. They somehow met in San Bernardino, a Mexican and a Jewish New Yorker, and moved to San Diego shortly thereafter. And so my sister and I have been kind of living the life of what is called biculturalness for Mexican and Ukrainian upbringing, Jewish Ukrainian, of course. So it's been interesting to be here, you know, finding out and kind of going through that world as it is.
So you have like the religious from both sides. Was your mom a Mexican Catholic? Or?
She was the Mexican Catholic, and my father definitely was the Jewish. Neither one wanted to practice because they both came from very strict upbringing. So they were very much the hippies, rebelling from their strict upbringing. So that's why they got together during the 60s, 70s, well, 70s more like it. And we're very adamant about me not having such a strong religious upbringing, because I had two very competing religions, more just understanding both. Yeah. So I had my grandmother, my mom's mom, teaching me all the Mexican Catholic ways, trying to make me a nice little nun if she could have. And then I had my father teaching me all the things, everything from Jewish prayers, Hanukkah, Passover, understanding, you know, why we do things what we do, making sure that I actually had the understanding. He was he was the one that always did the Jewish discussions in elementary or presentations for me. So, you know, very much just understanding both cultures, as it was my parents' upbringings for me.
The guilt was the same. The guilt is the same.
Guilt, Mexican guilt and Jewish guilt are the same. My mother learned both. She gravitated to both easy, let me tell you.
That's fun. Oh my gosh. Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
I know, right?
It's interesting when people have two totally different religious upbringings and then they get together. The interesting part is the two of them clicked regardless of that. But you said it was because of they didn't want that strict.
Exactly. They both were the oldest in their families and just trying to break, you know, the norm for what they knew as their upbringing.
Yeah, I can see that.
That rebellious,
Yes.
you know,
That's the 70s for you.
the
I
hippie
think.
rebellious, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Culture of like
California, too,
against
so
the man, against everything,
Yep.
against the
Yeah.
grain.
Well, that was my dad. He was against the man.
Now he is the man, right?
Yeah, he is the man.
Well, speaking of the man,
Yeah.
how about you, Alex? Tell us some story about how you came to be who you are.
I came to the U.S. I think it was like 4 or 5. I was born in Mexico, in Mazatlan, Sinaloa, Mexico. So mostly raised there as a little baby. My mom had me really young, so I had an aunt and uncle, which were my grandmother's sister. So when my mom would come to the U.S., she would drop me off with my with them, and eventually my parents were like, you know what, I think you just leave him here. And my parents ended up adopting me. And, you know, so when people ask, you know, it's like I still know my mom. We're, you know, not as close, but my parents are the ones that kind of raised me and, you know, took me under their wing. And I have an older sister. She's my second mom. Or actually probably my third mom at this point, you know? And then a younger sister who were very close. So even though we weren't brought together, because we were two different families, I was still able to be really close with my family. My family in general were just very close.
Very close.
So this is like the adoption was your aunt and your uncle adopted you, but does everyone in the family knows this? It's not a
Yes.
secret.
Yes.
This is
Very
not hidden.
very confusing when you have your grandmother and your mom and your stepmom all in one place.
You mean
And then
biological?
biological mom, your mom,
Right.
and your grandmother, and then why is she my tia, but that's not my uncle? And even though we're cousins, he doesn't get to be my cousin. He's your uncle.
Our poor children, our poor girls, because they had to know from the beginning that there was this mix, but they couldn't figure it out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
who's that? Is that my tia or my abuelita? Or is that how are they connected?
Yeah, because both my sisters have kids almost around the same age. So my oldest, who's 24,
Who is from your adopted parents' biological
Yeah.
daughter.
yes, they're 24, and then a younger daughter too, who's around 19. You know, so no, she's 20.
No, I'm saying your older sister's the biological from your parents,
Yeah.
from your adopted parents, and then your younger sister is your biological mother's other daughter.
Yeah.
So you
So
have
you
to
have
also.
a sister and a cousin.
Yeah, the math is already. See,
So that's
I
what
was
I'm
just
saying.
like,
You have to
okay,
explain
let's
it
put it
like
all
that
together.
to understand how complicated it is.
Yeah.
But
So-
it's funny how it doesn't matter until someone asks the question. You're
Exactly.
like, can you just not ask that?
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
We're all
something.
family.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, everybody has a dynamic in their family
Yeah.
that sometimes needs to be explained, but I think the more generations that come, they realize that there's really no traditional anything anymore. That's kind of going away because that's just not how the world is right now.
No.
You just
I have a lot of friends who their grandmother raised them, or their aunt raised them, or my parents just took that extra step to
Adopting him.
adopting me.
and that's what's great too is that they did that legally, thinking that might benefit you at some point.
Yeah.
So how about you guys? How did you meet each other? What's that story?
There's two stories, right? There's always hers is always her story and my story. So it just depends.
Somewhere
on
in there is the truth.
So the very first time, babe, you remember the first time.
First time I actually met her, we went to. If y'all don't know, we were in high school together, but it was summer before she was entering high school. We were both in like marching band.
He was
specialty
marching band.
co.
Let me rephrase that. He's the marching band guy. I'm the dancer.
I'm the band nerd, and she was in the drill team, and she came on board, and we used to do these Padre handouts, when you get a free hat
The
or
giveaways.
Towels. So our nonprofit or whatever the school was, we were the ones that actually did that. And so all the kids would go there and we'd hand you the hats, and then she was at the same gate.
We
one
both
year
got scheduled
to
at the same gate, yeah.
Yeah, scheduled on the same gate that we were at, and that was the first time I remember meeting her for.
And again, it was like that fleeting moment. Oh, hey, whatever. And
Yeah.
that was it
For you.
for both of us.
For both of us. 'Cause-
Believe it or not, it was both of us.
The woman is always the whatever.
Yeah, right.
For us,
no,
it's
but
like-
it was for him.
it's high school too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was he was the monogamous dater in high school, so he had the long standing relationship. So like he had the girlfriend for what at that time I was Kim,
Couple
right?
years.
Or
I don't.
I don't remember either. Anyway,
girlfriend.
it's high school. But anyways, it was like 2 years and 2 years. So he had those type. I was the incoming freshman. I was looking at this as like, wow. I am
She was 13.
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
I was 14. Just kidding. Myself
I was
feel
gonna say you
better,
started kindergarten when you were 3.
right? But again, so that's why it was like we didn't really pay attention.
It wasn't those moments. We were just. It's just high school, so you're just like you meet any other
And
high
we had to
school.
hang out with each other because we were in the same group organization
Yeah,
together.
right,
We were
right.
the same activities together, which required practices, this and that, whatever. But we also had the same friends.
Okay.
That was the thing. We had the same friends. I hung out with all of his guy friends, his girlfriends, his ex-girlfriends, the ones I mentioned. They were my friends in high school. Because that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
And so because they were my friends, his friends were my friends were his friends. How we really started hanging out was we had a friend of ours who had already graduated high school. I was still in high school. He had already graduated. She was having her birthday party, and it was at one of the local hotels. And I had gone after work to go hang out, and it was a pool party, basically. You're hanging out at the pool. We're all having fun. We're drinking sodas. And, we're having fun like that. And let me just say, there was just certain individuals at the party that I didn't want to, that I was just not meshing with. I will say it like that. Does that make you feel better? Sure. Yeah. And but we all agreed the next day that we were going to hang out together. So when we hung out the next day together, I had to either go in that other individual's vehicle or go in his vehicle. And because I had already known this guy did not really pay attention to me, and the other individual was paying too much attention to me, hint, hint, I go safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safe, right?
Safe guy here.
Yeah.
Safe guy
He felt
here.
respected. Yes.
Yeah. And
Friend zone immediately.
yes. Well, I had a boyfriend. I knew he had girlfriends, right?
Right.
So we were, and to be honest, we just hung out. We just started talking and we just started hanging out.
Yeah.
It really was that. It was just, we
That's
just
the
liked hanging
best
out.
way. I
Yeah.
feel like if you have the opportunity to be friends with the person that you end up falling in love with, it seems like that relationship is just based on so many more valuable things.
Yeah, I mean, we were, like I said, I had a boyfriend. He had girlfriends. And I say that because I love my husband because he was a player. I admit it.
If
I
I
had
wasn't in a
player.
relationship, you were not a player. There's no player in high school. You just dated.
This is
other
after high
girls.
school.
Yeah.
Well, you're figuring out who you're supposed to be for her.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
just didn't know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're
There
just
you
ironing
go.
out all the wrinkles.
It's just called growing up.
Exactly.
It is. Yeah.
But that's it. And, we just hung out and we were partying together. We were clubbing together and just as friends. And we just,
Yeah, I was going to college. She was, working at the time, and it was just one of those moments where it's like, hey, how about I take you out? And she was like,
the
you know,
date.
the date that wasn't a date, And she's like, yeah, sure. Friends just go out with friends in the middle of the week and get dressed up to go to nice places.
And go have a fine dining restaurant at
Yeah,
17
experience.
years old. Why wouldn't a best friend take you to do that, right? Best guy
That's a
friend.
normal thing to get dressed up, for
Yeah.
someone else and
No.
go out and do that.
Not
I
at
mean, my
17.
current boyfriend wasn't doing it for me. Why not have my best friend do it
Yeah,
for me?
Exactly.
Well, at 17, your normal dates are like
Movies. If you're lucky.
movies, drive-in maybe, depending on where you live.
Yeah.
or just hanging out in the car somewhere. And
Yeah, going to the
Because it's
mall if you're lucky.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's an opportunity to talk.
Yeah, let's check out the view.
Exactly. Somewhere dark. Somewhere.
Exactly, right? At a pit, at a nice lookout.
Well, we're lucky in San Diego. We got beaches, so
Yeah,
there's always
there
the
was always a
easiest-
nice point
Those
lookout.
movies do depict everything the right way.
Easy
Yeah,
to
that's
just
how
go,
it
let's
was.
just go walk on the beach. You're like, that was a
So
good nice
you guys
dinner.
got dressed up and went to a restaurant, huh?
Yeah,
I had a boyfriend though.
Yeah.
He's my friend. I told him we're
I
just
took-
going as friends. That's it.
I took her out. Like I just showed her, like, hey, like here's a fine dining. We took her to a restaurant. This is pre-me restaurant knowing. Or
Yeah,
doing
this
whatever.
is before when he just enjoyed being
Yeah.
hospitality guy, being
But I'm sure that's the trigger that started everything.
yeah, no, it did. I should have known. I should have known.
I got taught well.
So was that the first time you think that maybe you had like
Yeah.
ideas of maybe this could be something?
He actually
yeah.
asked me to marry him that night.
Yeah, because we're kids and we were both at, we had
After
really
the dinner, we-
mutual friends too, and a bunch of friends had come over to my house, and some reason one of their friends ended up talking to her friend,
My best friend. It was
Yeah.
because they were dating. She was
Yeah.
trying to get with him.
and they were like,
High school.
the friend's trying to date the other friend situation,
And I just got back from having dinner with him, so that was the other juicy gossiping that they were talking. They're like, "What's going on with Alex and Melissa?" Nothing, guys. We're just friends.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, like, how did it go? I'm like, well, it went well enough. I was like, enough for me to marry her. He's like, oh, you're going to marry her? I'm like, yeah, let her know. I'm going to marry her.
And he did, and they did, and I'm like, okay. They're like, hey, will you marry Alex? And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll marry him. Yeah. Take it seriously. I didn't know.
You didn't know my plan of sinking the sea.
Yeah,
Maniacal.
planning. Yep.
Yeah.
Little water on
Little
it.
water,
Take you out to
here and
dinner.
there. Yeah,
That'd
little,
be good.
little here and there.
When did you see him? Like, when did you actually see him as, oh,
That moment. Ugh. So I would love to say it was a beautiful moment and, sunset, no. Unfortunately, it was one of our clubbing nights, believe it or not. It was one of the nights we were coming back from TJ. But it was a pivotal moment because we had already been through friendships. We'd already kind of, we weren't dating, neither one of us were dating anybody. And we had just kind of, we were just, like I said, clicking. We were just clicking. And we were dancing and I remember too, because that's, the woman in me, and that's the moment I remember. And I just looked at him. It was just that one look he gave me that he just gives me every so often. And it's just like,
Can't use it on you because
yeah,
it's
he'll get
dangerous.
you. You might
I
fall
don't want to.
in love with him if you look at you that way.
Snake eyes.
Right?
It's
But
very- it's very
he
dangerous.
just looked at me and I was like it. I was just like, oh my God,
This is your person.
I love him. I'm in love with him. I want to be with him.
Wow.
And I told him that, and he goes, good, because I've been wanting to be with you too.
I was like, this the watering, you know. It was really-
Yeah, the
So-
long game. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a very long game.
It was a very long, it was what, we were friends for about, 9 months, almost a year before we started dating?
Yeah. I mean, nowadays it doesn't seem long, but then, you know,
And when you're in high
Yeah,
school.
for
in,
sure.
in your
Because I had to
early
graduate first.
in your early teens. I mean, I'm only 18. She's only like 17. You know.
No,
Summers
you were
last
2
like
years.
2
You're
years.
20 already.
Yeah.
You're going to stay older than me.
So you guys got together, and then like the trajectory of your relationship went kind of fast, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, I was 18, he was 20, and he was also still doing marching band. He was still very engaged in the touring because that was part of what he was doing is he got to tour across the U.S. With his marching band, and that's why he came, maybe he was a little bit more, I don't want to say experienced than me, but, he'd seen more than I got to see out in the world, a little bit more than I did. So for him, he was still doing that. He still wanted to be very engaged, and that took a lot of his time. And I was 18.
And school.
And school. And he was doing college too. And I was 18 and I was trying to have fun and I was trying to live life. And, so we were living very much together and partying together. But then there was coming to that time where we were looking at life and figuring out, is this really going to be us? Or just kind of, just having the normal.
It's hard at that time period to be young to know if anything is going to be longevity. You know.
For sure. Yeah.
For sure.
You
And
definitely believe it. I'll love you forever. heart. Put it on trees. Plus.
carve it in.
Yeah. So we did our dating and we did our on and off datings for a little bit, for a few years. And
Now you guys have 2 children.
yes.
2 daughters.
24 and 18.
And your first daughter, you guys were living together?
Yes, sort of. So we only got to live together for a short. Oh no, we were living together maybe 6 months. We got pregnant very quickly, shortly after we got moved in together. Let's just say it like that, because I was 18, 19 when we moved in together, and then shortly thereafter, because
You turned 21 when you were pregnant.
that's right. So 20 when we moved in together, because we were kind of living. He had an apartment that I would always stay at. Let's just put it that way. But when we were living together, I think I found out I was pregnant 2 days after we moved in together.
Yeah, she's like, by the way, I'm pregnant.
No, you told me.
I actually told her, I said, I think you're pregnant. And she's like, what?
Yeah, because
Oh,
he's like,
man.
you haven't,
Yeah.
I know your cycle by now. I'm like, what do you mean, you know what? He goes, and I haven't, and you haven't.
Wait.
I think you're pregnant.
his attentiveness that came from a long time ago. That's what makes you the hospitality professional with the hostess right there.
His attentiveness.
Paying
Yeah.
attention.
To
Yes.
detail.
I was like, have you gotten checked and you're pregnant? She's like, I'm not pregnant. And I'm like, we should probably have that checked. That day, she's like, okay, I'm going to go get checked. And she's like,
I went to
get
the doctor.
phone call, get the phone
I didn't even
call.
waste with the home pregnancy test. I went straight to the doctor.
And she was like, you're right, I'm pregnant.
I came home crying in his arms.
Aw.
But it was a good arm. It was a good
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. It was the moment of life not only began, but it's like life really began because now someone else is going to be dependent on you.
Right. Now, how did that make you feel? Did you feel anxious about your responsibility level changing?
Yeah, I mean, just you do because
You
you're
were.
so young. But I mean, I've always wanted to be.
Yeah, you wanted the family always.
I've always wanted a family,
Yeah.
especially the upbringing that I've had of having a family and be close and the little kids and babies are so cute, So, yeah.
So I think when we have to think about sometimes when you are young and you're in a relationship and you get such a responsibility. When your point is to be together, right?
Right.
But then when you get pregnant and you have a baby, the world
that
starts to
changes the world.
change, and you start to look around at your circumstances and the relationship. You start to have to evaluate the relationship. Like, what does this mean for us now that we have a child coming into the picture? Did you guys decide to get married after you got pregnant?
Well, we did talk about it. So because part of that cuteness, right? So I came home crying in his arms. What are we going to do? He goes, well, that just means we got to get married. Okay. So yes, we were intending to get married, but that wasn't what we were going. It wasn't like, okay, now let's go get married. It was more like, okay, that we're going to do that. But that wasn't the goal. It was more of just getting through the the pregnancy, just get
the
through
process. We had to tell our parents. We had to tell, the family. We had to get a realization point. That's probably the biggest news of life that you're ever going to get sometimes is, oh, wow, we're having a baby. Like, that's it's a realistic moment of your life that you just like, if anything gets brought to you that quickly to a center point in your life, you're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably, hey, we're having a baby.
Right. So, and the funny thing is, I think his parents wanted to see us married, but it wasn't like, hurry up because you're getting pregnant married. But I think his parents have always loved us being together, to be honest.
Yeah.
And my parents were already dealing with my sister, who also had kids out of wedlock, too. So, no shock to them. They're all just like, we're all good. I think it was more shock to us and where we were at of our lives.
Right. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. People say like, oh, you know how this happened. You're like, do you not get the education thing?
It's like, no, but you don't understand when you're in it. Now you're asking that question.
Yeah.
Even though you understand the mechanics.
Because the love takes over. Like you're so happy just being
You're
in that
just so
space
in it.
together. Exactly.
Well,
And you
there's a
both have
bond.
the same intentions about your life. Like, you
Yeah.
want to be together. So,
But there's also something that's just going to bond you for the rest of your life together,
Yeah.
whether you're together or not. This person that's coming is now bonded you together, even more than marriage.
yeah.
Because you can still get divorced, but this person, you're still going to interact with each other for a very long time
Yeah.
of your life.
I mean, how many
because-
people have to co-parent nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that moment is definitely one that most people, I think, when they get that message, changes their life
Right.
more than any other one.
So tell us the story of what happened in between there.
Well, that's right. That's the situation for us, is that we had the realization, the aha moments, everything was just coming to just reality was setting in. And, here I am, 20 years old, pregnant, and I was the stable one. I've always been the stable one, I
Yeah.
would say, from a job perspective. I was working grocery, and at that time, grocery was great. And I was making top dollar, and I had a union position, union benefits. I'm happy. So I'm good. But I've got my struggling man who's trying to make him do something for it. So that was our strive. Is he was trying to make a name for himself, trying to be the man that he wanted to be today, but didn't know what that was. Because at first, this is a man who wanted to be a music producer first when we were young, and now is a chef. So there was some discovering you had to
It's just
do,
different
right?
production now.
Yeah, exactly. Still
Different
producing.
production, different
Part of the
type.
plan.
But yeah, so we went through that, and I had to grow up because I wasn't happy with where he was at, because he wasn't happy where he was at. I wasn't happy where I was at because I'm living with him, or we had to move out of our place because we were struggling. We have no money. We have this, we have that.
Yeah, we had life changes in ourselves to realize that, hey, maybe this is not a good idea. So we took a break, and we were not even a break. We were just saying, okay,
I had to break up with him.
Yeah.
I hated him for a good time because we were going through such strife.
Yeah.
We went through, as most of us women know when we were pregnant, our hormones, our emotions, raging, right?
Right.
So of course, I'm not going to be just angry. I'm going to be angry
Right.
with him.
Yeah. Your triggers are a little more sensitive for sure.
yeah.
Being that age too. So
Yeah.
I was a young dad, and I was in the Marine Corps, and my late wife was in the Marine Corps too. But we were young in the Marine Corps, so the pay wasn't really
Right.
that good. And it's like, okay, we're already kind of struggling. Now we're bringing a child into this world. How are we going to do this? That
Exactly.
fear sets in, and of course we didn't have anybody that we could actually go to because of our own fears of saying, I'm afraid to talk to this person because how are they going to judge me? How are they going to see me? So it's tough. So I understand.
It was
Yeah.
tough for us.
So when you broke up, did you move out, or like did you
Yeah.
guys
Well,
actually?
I was actually already, because of the strife, we had already, so we had to, first we were living in our own place, and then we moved out of our own place into his parents' place. And then from his parents didn't kick us out by any means, but they were in their own transitional phase, right?
Yeah.
So they were moving out of their own place because now they were transitioning to go buy another home and go move into another home. So then we had to move out of that place. Okay, where do we move now? So now we have to go move into my parents' house. So I was living with my parents, and then when we broke up, he moved out. So I stayed with my parents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this was after the baby.
This was during.
Oh wow.
Okay.
and then the baby came, and then we were still at that point we were just had separate
Co-parenting.
lives, co-parenting, you know, and that connection of co-parenting, because we were good co-parents, we might have not always liked each other.
We may not have gotten along or may not have liked him. Just kidding.
but we knew that the goal was to
our
parent
kid.
parent correctly, you know.
Right.
And I always
and-
wanted him to be a part of our daughter's life. And, you know, when we were separated, I didn't want her to not know her dad or him not know her. That was never my end goal.
Yeah.
But
Now, do you think that I'm curious because there's a lot of the times, you know, when you're with someone, you guys move in together, which I always have been a proponent of living with someone before you get married, you know, but do you think that it was the fact that you weren't married that it was easier to just dissolve the relationship? Or do you think you just weren't really ready for marriage anyway?
I think it was that we weren't really ready for marriage anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were both in two different headsets.
Yeah.
In that world, right? Where, you know, as a young man, you're just trying to find how to be whatever you're trying to be. She was trying to figure out who you are, you know.
Yeah.
And under 25, like most people in life, don't know what they're.
Right. But that's actually shows your intelligence level that you're saying we need to figure this out because we aren't ready. So how long were you separated?
About 4 years.
About 4
Wow.
years. Yeah.
Okay.
Our daughter was it was actually our daughter's 5th birthday, wasn't it? So we started
around
taking,
5th, yeah.
that I started accepting him, you know, more regularly in my life, not just as a co-parent. And I was with someone else, and we won't talk about that. It's okay. Just kidding. But it was kind of that moment where it was like during her 5th birthday that we had to kind of I was willing to do that co-parent birthday party. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
So that was kind of like that little bit of that door jarring for me to be kind of friendly with him and more than just the co-parent with him. And so it was, but I remember it because that's also where it was my transitional phase where I just started liking him a little bit more and I started getting over my issues. And I was, you know, even though it was with someone else at the time, I wasn't in the same headspace that I was originally, I guess you could
But I
say.
was also a different person. Right?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
were.
4
You were a very
years.
different
You
person.
know, I was career minded. I had a vision. I had a path. I had grown up. You know, so and you know my ambitions and creativity had never changed.
No, I've always loved that
They
part of
just
you.
drove me a different direction.
Yeah, because I always, that was the one thing I always loved about him is his ambition and his drive. Right, he wants to be successful.
Once a hustler, always a hustler.
Yes, and that's what I love about him because that's the kind of people I grew up with, and that's you know, and I knew because I'm not that I needed that.
Yeah.
And I love that about him. But there was, like you said, he had to grow up. He had to figure it out. How was he going to use his magic?
Now, did he get dressed up and take you to a fancy restaurant again? did we do it again?
Well, to come back full
Just as
circle,
friends.
to come back to circle of how this, you know, became to what it is now. So in that time, we were both in relationships.
Yeah.
Like long relationships, like a few years. She was in a relationship for a couple years. I was probably a year and a half, 2 years. Same. And somehow, some way, our relationship ended kind of around the same
Yeah.
time, you know? And one time she was like in a situation where she was stuck and she was like, I need to get out of my situation.
I was breaking out with my ex. Had moved in with him and
And she was
needed
like,
to move out.
I need to move out. And I'm like, yeah, I'll come grab you and move you. And she was like,
Are you sure?
and
Really?
I was like, yeah, if my daughter's in a situation where I feel that it's not a good situation for her, like my priority is my daughter.
Right.
So, you know, not that she's not, but I'm like, it comes as a package.
Yeah.
It's a package
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Car stereo, everything in it. You know? So when you talk about that, like it's a
I'm
package.
so glad I'm a car stereo now.
Yeah, it's a package deal. You come with it, you know? And I was like, no, like, I'm going to pick you up because it doesn't sound like it's a good environment for my daughter. You know, you to not be in a situation where you feel safe, happy, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And then my daughter to be a part of that. So I'm like, I'll just come grab you. So I grabbed the U-Haul, grabbed her, picked her up, moved her back to her parents' house.
Yeah.
And then at that point, that's when we kind of like,
And we started hanging out because I needed that. I needed that comfort. He's always been my safe space. Of course, I should have known then, and not knowing now that meant that he's meant to be for me. But yeah, no, he did take me out to dinner. He wanted to show off how much he had progressed because I didn't, when he told me he wanted to be a chef, I didn't believe him.
Yeah.
Again, music producer, I thought that was your thing. You're my trumpet player. So now you're going to tell me you're a chef and you're actually doing, he wanted to take me to, what was it, Rancho Bernardo Inn, or was it, where were you working at?
Somewhere in Bernardo.
Yeah, somewhere in Rancho Bernardo.
So was that the thing that made you go back to him?
No, it wasn't the thing that, it was just kind of one of those like, okay, I see him trying.
So
I
what
see
was
him
what was the thing?
Another one of those pivotal moments for me, the female moment, where unfortunately he got really sick one day. Poor guy's always he used to deal with ulcers all the time, and he took some ibuprofen when he shouldn't have, and his ulcers were at its best, and he was throwing out blood like you wouldn't believe, like crazy. And I had to take him to the hospital. I dropped off my daughter with my sister, took him to the hospital. The nurse didn't believe us. He threw up for them. Blood right there.
And like, you sure didn't drink Kool-Aid? I'm like, I've never seen Kool-Aid like this.
Did you drink red Kool-Aid?
This red. But seeing him in the hospital bed, realizing that I don't want to be away from him. I just wanted to be with him.
You already know my side.
The long game.
Yeah, long game. I mean, that was a
Swallowed razor blades, didn't you, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, an eight-year long game became pretty long. So I got to cut this soon. And I think 10 years to cut off. You know.
Yeah, no, he really literally said to me, if we're gonna be together, that means we're together now. I'm like, yeah, I know.
So what does that mean?
That meant everything. That meant we were going to get married. I don't know when.
Yeah.
Somebody still has yet to ask me. Yet we're still married legally.
I asked it after our first date.
Yeah.
It happened already.
But
Already
you did it
did
to a
it.
friend.
Yeah.
Tell her
Hey,
that
thank
we're gonna
you.
get married.
See, she gotcha.
Yeah.
But again, it was that commitment. Like we said, okay, this is it. And he goes, okay, that means we're getting married. Okay, I'm gonna have my second baby then.
Yeah. So do you think that this time your confidence was 100%? Like,
Absolutely.
I want this. This is what I want. But versus before, it was kind of the trajectory naturally of how things were going.
Yeah.
But would you say back then you weren't ready for marriage, 100% not ready, and now this is kind of like, I want this?
Because he was at where I needed him to be at that point too. I was ready to be at that point. He was ready to be at that point, but we both had to be at the same place. Like I had to know and feel that there was nobody else for me, that there wasn't any, because I was one of those individuals that my mom didn't want me to marry the first guy that came along. So she just kind of had that ingrained in me that I don't go for the first person that makes me feel, ooh, who's he inside? Because that's what her sisters did, or her mom, that's what a lot of women do in Mexico City. She wanted me to fall, or he used to joke around and say, fall in love for money. You have fun for love.
Oh, wow.
That was
Okay.
a joke. I mean,
Yeah.
she just joked around, but she really wanted me to know that if I was going to be marrying someone, that it was going to be that person, because she also didn't want me to later on in life be in that situation where she has people, where I would be stuck in a marriage.
Yeah, miserable.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all know. We've seen it. We all
have
acknowledged
friends.
that, and you've seen it. Even as a kid, you didn't realize it, but you knew it was there. And then now you know. And I was like, to be in that kind of a marriage, or people are married, married for their kids or whatever other reasons. Nowadays, people are just married for financial reasons.
Yeah, that business transaction.
Yeah.
Because it's, your marriage is also a business. It's a household business.
Yes.
Of managing money and managing incoming
it
and
is.
outcoming, and so obviously being young, you're just looking to grow up, and so you have to either do it really quick, which we learned with the young, being young parents, of that someone else is responsible for this, little girl, and then us being adults of knowing, hey, I don't think this is working, and we need to go figure things out, because otherwise this is not going to be a good life for any of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for us to come back together and realize, no, we did what we need to do. Now let's do it together.
Yeah.
It's just funny as you're telling that story. I go back to the beginning story where you guys were going to hang out and you didn't want to get in one car, but you got in that car because you felt safe.
Exactly.
And it's as if the light bulb came off or came on when it was like, okay, I feel safe. This is where I need to be. And it was as if you both felt that safety at the exact same time.
It was, and we had to feel it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we both did so much growing up that when we did reintroduce into a moment of going out and it was just like dating all over again. Because now, even though we have certain traits and personalities that aren't going to change, we have a whole life that happened in those four years or so of life that we took on that now we're sharing with each other, and you know, and what do you really do for work, and what is it, you know?
We both started our careers separately. So he started the chef world, you know, in his own world. I went into recruiting on my own when I was in grocery store. We weren't together when I went into it. So for us to reintroduce and help support each other, which we ended up figuring out that ended up working for us, is that we could support each other in those ventures without having to be too involved.
Now, did you guys ever work together?
Yes.
We tried. Yes, we've tried.
I mean, besides all the time, but in professionals, we've tried owning a business together, and we realized that, you know, it's when you have two alpha people that are so focused and driven and have their own ways.
Want to be bosses?
Yeah, and you know, sometimes working a business that requires two bosses, and it's not a huge company, it's a little more different.
Yeah.
We work better when we complement each other. Like, I could easily go into any of his events, catering events or whatever, and he could plug me in wherever he needs me, or I could help him run it, like no problem. Or it could be just the two of us to go do a catering event, and it's no problem. But to run a business together is to deal with the challenges. We need to be able to bounce off each other, not to take it home with each other.
Yeah.
That's something that we found very good, because he now uses me for his, you know, consulting, or he has friends that reach out to me for consulting. Or, you know, I send my friends to go to him if they need that, to go, you know, impress their girlfriend.
I'm gonna show you how to take a girl out on a date.
Yeah.
But that's how it works out for us. Or
Yeah.
he's, you know, when I take him to my events, because I somehow ended up in the food world still, even from an HR perspective, everybody loves talking to him because they love picking his brain. So that's how we really learned to be able to complement each other in that way.
Well, you guys were practicing that too during your co-parenting.
Yes.
You know, you had a goal, you had the similar goal, and you worked together well when there was a goal.
Yeah.
But when it's business together and you guys have to, you know, it's a little
You should
different.
see us when we do our home catering events. When I'm meaning like the family, no, you don't want to be there for that chaos, because that's when the two bosses come out.
Because it's the personal, personal comes in.
Well, we might need to see that. And y'all can come to our house, and then we can.
We'll watch you figure that out.
Exactly. We'll just sit back and we'll.
Yeah, our kids don't enjoy it because they get the wrath.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I can see that. We get a little. We like to host, and we get a little. We work very well together. Like we say, we think well in like the kitchen and stuff. But there's times where like he's a little more patient than me, and to me, his patience looks like he's moving too slow, and he's not going to be on time. You know, and I'm like, do you know what time it is? You only have 10 minutes to do that, and he's like, I'm fine, I got this.
I'm a strategic planner, so I'm already before I woke up, I had it laid out what I was going to do.
He's still
Yeah.
late.
And she's like, "You're not on my page. We need to be on."
Yeah, and I'm very like he's very on time with everything, but I'm very like I think I can sense time better than he can.
I have to be meticulous about my time. Like I'm planning out my time very much so.
Yeah,
Because
I know
need
what
to
5 minutes feels like. I don't even really need to look at the clock.
Yeah.
And he's like looking at the clock, like I have 5 minutes to do this, but it's like 7 minutes, and so those 2 minutes make a big difference to me.
I'd rather be 2 minutes early though too.
Yeah, but he's very much on time when it comes to arrivals, but he's just too laid back. I just can't. He gives me anxiety. It's why how
have to-
slow.
If
he
I'm not in like a zen place, my day goes terrible.
Oh yeah. She'll start getting ready in the morning,
Yes.
and I'll be like,
10 minutes right
You don't
before.
gotta be there till 2.
"What time we gotta be there?"
No, I have to have 4 hours.
I'm like,
beforehand.
I got.
Because you gotta kind of relax in between, or give yourself room to.
I gotta
like,
get
I
things
gotta-
about, and then there's
Yeah.
5 other things we got to do between, because you know I've got the kids, and maybe call for 5 more minutes of their time. They might not live with us, but that doesn't mean they don't take my time. And then I still got to prep for him, because he's going to ask me for about 10 more items beforehand. Let me tell you, 10 more items. So don't plan on leaving on time. Plan on leaving 20, 30 minutes ahead of time.
Yeah. So you gotta give yourself that leeway.
No cushion.
Yeah, and you're more used to the way you are, so you have this anticipation that everybody else is going to be that
Yes.
way, and you don't allow for the errors other people will make. And I'm like, everyone's gonna mess this up.
I'm more
That's
so.
the HR in me.
I think I'm more so ready to fill in the gaps. If a mistake happens, I can jump in, and I know my capabilities, so I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah, you,
Yeah.
you'll
Whatever
do it
they
yourself,
do, yeah,
but-
I'll take care of it.
Yeah, that gives me anxiety.
That gives me anxiety too.
Yeah.
She's
Let,
like,
let me just
"Hey."
deal with it. Let me just.
Yeah, I want to trust people, but I'm like, nope. I'm gonna
hard.
assume that they're not gonna be ready. They're not gonna know what to do. They're gonna be slow. They're gonna be on CPT, and we have to live with that.
Yeah, I'm very good at adapting fast. I pivot real quick.
Yes, you do.
I
So
could
do
I could like a chameleon. I can assume real quick without, and I'd be like, it's all right. Like I've done this a million times.
Right. So you're calm with it. You're like okay with that.
That's why, because he's
Yes.
he's
you're
been
like
through
whatever
this.
happens, it's fine.
We'll figure it
Like
out.
I
And I'm
work
like,
in an
"No."
I work in an intense environment.
pressure.
yeah.
Where like if you're not patient, your
You
ship
get ulcers.
Your ship is gonna go down.
But see, I'm that way. If you see somebody like going crazy, and when I mean crazy, like if they start screaming and yelling and going irate, and I'm just sitting there and I sit there, and people are like, "Why aren't you reacting?" Oh, I'm used to this. This is my world.
Yeah.
This is. I've had bums yell at me in my face, and I just stand there and look at them crazy, and people are like, "Aren't you afraid?"
Yeah.
Of what? They're just yelling.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll deal with it when it comes at me.
Exactly. But that's also because the chaos.
Patience, non-patience, and then it goes back and forth here and there.
Yeah.
Right.
So it just depends on the day.
Now, you guys are in a space right now where you're getting reintroduced to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, empty nesters just become.
Like everybody always, it's funny when you ask parents, because we have a lot of parents that are similar age or, with
We have friends who are going through their own different-
Same age group gap, right? And they're like, first question over like, what is that like? They're like, is it as good as it sounds? it's like
Or no, I get the moms who are like, "Aren't you missing your babies? Well, how sad are you?"
Yeah.
No, I'm good. Okay.
you're like, you mean the ones that call me and come over every day? Those babies? Like,
Yeah.
Was it still food as they walk out the door?
Right? No, it's fun actually, because I think for us we've never really had that young couple like married, like we didn't get to be just a married couple ever, or that young couple married ever, because we were either too young or we had a kid, right? So now we're actually just us.
Yeah, it's different when you're like, what do you want to eat? Whatever you want.
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't have to check in with people. I don't have to ask anybody. It's just,
we can, it's, without being too TMI, I guess is the term, right?
Yeah.
We can come home and he could get comfy, Comfy is a whole different term nowadays than when the kids were home, and he can take us, and just feel comfortable and not have to worry. And
I'm still adjusting on the cooking for two people.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
I can't
yes.
imagine how hard that must be for you.
And that's
Yeah,
like,
but we live really
so-
close to this place, so if you ever too much, and it just it won't stay for more than a day. just
right.
give
So
us
if
a
you want to,
call.
well, I'll send the leftovers with them. How's
that
that?
would be
We got extra food. Okay, we're on our way.
Yeah, what was it? He made chicken tortilla soup
It's a-
last week, and it ended up being a big pot full. We could send a whole container size home with our oldest when she came to pick up the
Well, we're 16 minutes away, so
right.
without traffic.
I know, right?
Understand, yeah. So yeah, it's been almost a reintroducing of our lives that we just never really just had to
Yeah,
ourselves.
you guys are like newlyweds again.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. Where it's like, wow, well, like, what do you want to do today? I'm like, whatever we want. Like, do we want to go out? We're like,
No more volleyball tournaments.
Yeah, no more schedules to keep up with.
Right?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
more parental curfew.
Exactly.
Because that's what it's like.
Yeah.
I got to be home because the kids have to do this, I have to do that.
Yes. You're not. And
put one to bed, put this here, like, and obviously our kids, our oldest was 24, so you're talking about a pretty long time living with us. So that's quite a long time of not having, you would
Time.
have moments where you would have a day here, a day there. I mean, we got to the point where we left our house just to not be home, right? And just go for a staycation somewhere,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just to get away from our kids that lived with us.
We totally tell people that, like, even young people with kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes they think they have to do date nights and they have to go out and spend the money at a restaurant.
we hardly
and-
ever did date nights
But
when we were
send
young.
the kids away.
Yeah.
Like if you have people around you, put the kids somewhere else. You stay home in your relaxing environment. You
Exactly.
cook,
Especially
you put on
for
the
us when
music.
we had competing schedules when we had kids, right? So date nights were not a thing for us. We couldn't even find date nights.
Weekends and nights, chef.
Well, because you're also on a time limit when you go out.
Exactly.
You have to, at a
Well-
restaurant, you can't sit there for 4 hours. You got to get out after a
Well,
while.
and then he works nights and I work days. So
Yeah.
when you find in between, and then like you said, the date nights don't work out. So for us, it was the staycations worked. That's where we found our,
Yeah.
moments away. As
As a younger couple, especially with the kids, I was always about connecting with family and kids. She was like, "Can't we just leave the kids?"
yeah.
just to run away. I just want to run
Yeah.
away.
I was opposite. I was trying to build things with them, and she was
Right.
like, "Yeah, we can build them. We can build them when they're at their grandmother's."
Well, I think that makes sense too, though, because you guys had the balance,
Yeah.
and a lot of people have a hard time in their relationships realizing that relationship should be priority over the children, over
is.
the rest of the family.
And that was the one thing that I think helped him and us stay together, because I think if we would have just allowed the kids to be a priority like he wanted, and I love you, baby, but I appreciated that about it because it kept us as a family unit. But I think I also had to help push for us to have our couple time, or because he is my best friend. That's how we started our relationship.
I'm a good planner, though. I do really good things. So, like for birthdays, I always made sure, anniversaries, I snuck her away.
Absolutely. He was,
Yeah.
he made sure of that. But that's, but those are the special times. But
Yeah.
what about the non-special times? You still just don't want BS
Yeah.
just as special. You just still need to connect in those times.
Right,
Right.
the connection.
Yeah, and I think that was one thing that we did really good at, is connecting. It was just, we always had to just also work at finding the right time. So that's where the staycations came in, is that we could run away. And thank goodness we were able to
And
do
once
that.
we were almost to a point where our kids were old enough to like walk away, we have a grandkid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, thanks, kid.
that got introduced into our life in our home. So now it's like we
It
started
was starting all over again.
all over again where we've
Because our
bottles
daughter
and-
lived with us. So that kid was my kid.
Yeah.
So when you think about like the moment of like, oh, our kids are old enough, I don't have to necessarily be
Worry
home
about
to
home.
be home to take care of them. She's 17. She's in in high school, and my oldest, she's an adult. She's at work. So we could go just do whatever we wanted, right? But then all of a sudden, now you got the new grandbaby, and it's like now with a young mom, single mom, she needs us quite a bit because she needs to work. She needs to do this. So we had our grandson, Anakin.
My
for
third son.
Yeah.
My third child.
Yeah. For, sometimes 5-6 days a week.
Oh, wow.
And with our different schedules, like, I'm out nights and doing whatever,
I travel for work.
Yeah. So she would have him all the time. So those date nights weren't as easy. We're like, hey, you want to go out tonight? We're like, oh, I have Anakin. I'm like, oh, that's right. Well, we have to find a babysitter for our baby that isn't ours.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have to say, but now that we're at that point, we're soaking it up. We're soaking it up.
Well, now, like I tell everybody, it's as a joke, but now I actually get to be the grandparent I kind of want to be
Yeah.
with him, where,
get to
it's
give him back.
It's like, oh, hey, don't let him do this. It's like, what? No, he does
Over here,
whatever.
he
Yeah,
can do that.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants now because I don't have to worry about being that second parent to him.
Yeah.
Where he lives with me, there's a lot more rules. There's a lot more, I understand that portion. I just can't just be, hey, have a bowl of candy for breakfast.
Yeah.
And he will do it. He does it now. The bowl of candy for breakfast. He does that now.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but I'm, at this point, I'm like, hey,
Yeah,
like,
because you can do it now.
I can do it now.
Exactly.
You're gonna pick him. What did you guys do to him? He's so wound up. I'm like,
You're welcome.
not my problem.
Payback.
Yeah.
Well, listen, as we start to close out, we always ask this of our couples: when you got married, did you say the traditional vows or did you write your own vows? How did that go? And if so, either way, what would you change today?
So we didn't do a tradition. We just went down, no traditional marriage for us. We went down and got a civil ceremony. So it was very traditional because, they give you the option, but we were in such a rush because both of us had to go to work. So we did the traditional vows, but I would like to eventually I finally convinced him, or I think he finally got onto my bandwagon, or maybe I'm just became boss enough, that he's okay with renewing our vows sometime in the near future. And I would like to have some kind of, our own vows, because I think we've been through life enough that we can have good ones, that it means differently than what it was before.
Now, you guys, your anniversary is coming up December, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
20
that's
years.
20 years.
20. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time to create a
was like-
celebration,
I'm like,
Mr.
why don't we-
Hostess with the mostest.
Yeah, I was like, well, let me just sneak away and we can get married in some tropical island.
And then I tell them, do you not know your family? Do you know how pissed off your family would be?
I'm all, let them be pissed.
My mom would
They
not
can-
mind. She'd go to the tropical island.
Yeah.
His mother would be like, but when do I finally get, because she doesn't travel as well. So she'll be like, but I still want to see my baby. I still want to see my baby.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe you
the-
can have a party later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of the moments, and you're like, what could you change? Obviously, if we could, we would change many things, right? But then that's also created
Who we
to
are today.
who we are today because the life choices we made kind of create those moments. And, would I change it?
No.
Honestly, not at this point, no.
No, I mean, the only thing I probably would change is I probably would have been a little bit nicer to him.
He was like, whatever.
It was part of the challenge for me, so it was right. So as you go with it, but yeah, if we in the traditional thing, what would I change? I don't think there would be something that could change because we wouldn't be this today.
I love that.
We would be something else.
You gave him the emotional strength to pull away at your walls. So
I did.
it was good that you were that way and you both were able to find each other and see each other.
Yeah, that's like our kids hate it all the time, right? When they're walking up and we're kissing each other or, ew. You're like, well, would you rather see us screaming at each other? Because I'm sure that's not as healthy as this.
And I
No.
say to him, my oldest one, hey, just be glad your mom and dad get back together, okay?
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
right.
Well, thank you both
Yeah,
for
it's a pleasure.
one, inviting us here to do this, and then saying that you would like to sit down and chat with us. It's been such a pleasure. And
Yeah.
of course, we're going to see you quite often because we love coming here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure as well on our side. Like
Yeah.
when you told my wife, she was like, "You want to do what?" I was like, "Yeah, we're a pretty strong couple."
So thank you so much.
Well, we see that. We see that anybody who has your demeanor has to have a wonderful spouse or partner. So, we were asking around and we definitely
It's
were
the
like,
better half, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Well, I think it's great, but we want everybody else to know about this place specifically. So if you all are in the Encinitas area of California, Fox Point Farms, and particularly the restaurant Haven Farm to Table, you guys have to come check this out. This is literally a farm, and so it's situated with homes and I guess they're apartments and we're in a carriage house.
Yes,
And so this
home, yeah.
carriage house is actually available to rent for the weekend.
For the staycation?
Yeah,
Staycation, yeah. And so you could stay here and you can go down to the country store and you can buy groceries and you can buy amazing coffees and teas.
sandwiches and
everything's
everything, yeah.
very organically made and
Do
the
your
bakery,
yoga in the
the
morning.
wellness area. It's like a retreat,
Catch
getaway.
a beer later on, some
Yeah.
kombucha.
Less than a
Yeah.
mile to the beach. you
Very
know?
family friendly and it's a great place. So check it out. And also, we want to thank you because you are helping us with our Juneteenth event, which we are hosting in June. And Alex has generously offered to sponsor the produce for our special area we're going to be having at the event.
It was my pleasure, honestly.
So we appreciate that so very much. And we hope to see you guys there.
Definitely.
So yes, just keep in mind June 19th, we are celebrating Juneteenth, San Marcos at Cal State San Marcos. We have leased a space there. So we're going to have vendors and speakers and entertainment.
And wonderful chefs.
And we have a little secret section that we're not quite ready to talk about yet. But,
What's the secret?
Well, maybe I'll have to just make sure I hang out with my daughter. I'll bring her since she goes to school there.
That'd be
oh,
perfect.
that's
friends.
right. And she
Yep.
can
So all of her
volunteer and
friends.
help.
There you.
because
All right, I found you
summertime.
free help.
That would be great. That would be great. Yes, but it's going to be an all-inclusive event, so we're excited about that.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Just a quick reminder, we are not licensed therapists, and everything we discuss here is based purely on our personal opinions and life experiences. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss a future conversation.
A podcast network bringing radio to the modern age. It's recorded at the Film Hub in Vista, California, a creative, collaborative co-working environment. Thank you so much for tuning in.